In this video, we're going to get hands-on with perhaps my favorite rifle powder, Hodgdon Varget. Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. I've got a lot of powders here in the Ultimate Reloader shop that I use to load a lot of different rifle cartridges. But perhaps the one that I use most is Hodgdon Varget. Why? Because I've gotten some extremely good performance results and it's an incredibly versatile powder. So in this story, we're going to get hands-on with Hodgdon Varget. I'm going to summarize some of the great results that I've gotten, talk about different cartridges that Varget is optimal for from a reloading perspective, and look at some data. We're even going to look under the microscope. So let's get to it. Varget is a part of the Extreme lineup of powders from Hodgdon. Extreme powders are formulated for performance. In my experience, they give really great velocity numbers. You can achieve very low SDs, so very tight velocities with minimal fluctuation. And these extreme powders are also formulated for optimum temperature stability. It's a very exacting process to develop these formulations so that you could shoot them in sub-zero temperatures all the way up to 110 degree, 120 degree African Sahara desert temperatures with a minimal fluctuation in velocity. And here I have some of the cartridges that I load with Varget on a regular basis. 223, we've got 224 Valkyrie, 6-Dasher, and 308. I started with the two outer cartridges shown here, 223 and 308, because Varget is kind of a great sweet spot powder for those cartridges. But the more I dug into more different specialty cartridges, I've gotten absolutely astounding results with this powder, and its versatility means it's a great powder to have on the shelf. When I evaluate a powder, one of the very first things I do is to take a look at where that powder lands on the relative burn rate chart. And Hodgdon sits in a very interesting position on this chart. Using this specific edition of the chart, Varget falls at the very top of that right-hand column. And what's interesting about its placement is it's a little slower in the 223 or 308 sort of collection of powders. And it's a little bit faster than some of the typical 6.5 Creedmoor powders. So if we compare it with H4895, that's a little bit faster. Benchmark, which is another powder that I use for both 223 and for 308, is faster yet. H4350 is slower. But with each of these powders, there's a whole range of cartridges that they'll work with, and it really depends on the weight of bullet that you're using. Within a cartridge category, like let's use the Creedmoor class of cartridges, 6.5 Creedmoor for example, heavier bullets are going to favor slower powders and lighter bullets are going to favor faster powders. So for 6.5 Creedmoor, if you've got a lighter bullet, you might be able to use Varget, whereas for a typical class weight bullet for that cartridge, like a 140 grain bullet, you're going to want to favor the optimum powder for that cartridge, something like H4350 or 6.5 Stable. That would even be on the heavier side yet. So what's cool about Varget is there's some cartridges where it is the absolute best powder, either Varget or something very similar to it in burn rate. I'll use 6-Dasher as an example. It's very well known in PRS shooting circles that Varget, excellent cases, and something like Berger's 105 grain bullet are going to produce absolutely stellar results if you have a great rifle like what I have here. So at the end of the day, it's the burn rate, in my opinion, that makes Varget such a versatile powder. You know, everything from 223 to 308 and even beyond. If you have a specific cartridge that I didn't list that you love Varget for, please drop a comment and I'd love to hear that feedback. Next, let's take a look at some of the data. The first data I collected for Varget was some rough density calculations. I'm not doing anything too exacting here, but I have been comparing the relative density of powders as they come through my test process. So what I've been doing is taking a measuring cup here and a scale. This is not my most precise scale, but I'm measuring a good bulk of powder here. And to look at the weight for 200 milliliters and then to calculate what the grams per liter would be there. So I've got N555 Varget H4350 and Stayball 6.5. Interesting thing here is the measurement that I took for Varget matched N555, which is a slower powder, exactly. And again, this is not laser precision measurements here. This is just kind of getting a rough idea of the relative densities for these powders. So 202 grams for 200 milliliters. Varget was the same at 202, H4350 was 212, and Stayball 6.5 was 226. And that's one of the advantages of using a flattened ball powder, is it can be formulated a bit more dense. So Varget is going to be very similar to other short stick powders like H4350 and N555, and you get similar loading results in terms of how much powder will fit in your case. So one of the things I like to do when I take a look at these smokeless powders is to put them under the microscope. And what I've got here is a Wi-Fi connected 400 power microscope where we can see very minute details. We can see color and we can see texture, which is pretty awesome. So you can see here on my tablet, I've got the view from the microscope, and these sticks of powder look pretty similar to powders like N555, which I showed recently, and H4350. And what we can do if we move the platen here is show our scale. I've got a metal scale here. There we go. And each of the hash marks on the scale here is 1/64 of an inch. So from that, I calculated what the stick length is for Hodgdon Varget, and we'll compare that here to some of the other powders that I've taken a look at. Stayball 6.5, this was a diameter measurement because they're flattened balls, 0.0313, N55, 0.0430, H4350, 0.0547, and Varget, 0.0742. So Hodgdon Varget is easily the longest stick powder from all those. What's interesting is how the characteristics don't always line up. You'd think the longest stick powder would be the bulkiest, and that has not proven with my density calculations and even with my loading, which is kind of interesting. So that's Varget under the microscope. So let's talk about performance results. This story almost wrote itself because I've done so much with Varget and I've got absolutely outstanding results. Starting with 223, I featured Varget with some of the loads that I had in the budget Precision 223 series. That was where I took the Thompson Center Compass rifle and a very budget-oriented reloading gear collection and saw what I could do. I had results down into the threes, which was pretty awesome. And with Varget specifically, using that $180, $200 rifle, I was able to get half MOA results, which I was really happy with. 224 Valkyrie, I did land on the Nosler 70 grain RDF bullet with Varget as my absolute most outstanding load. If you click on that first link in the video description, a link over to that story. Consistent quarter MOA results in this bolt action rifle that I built here on the channel, another story that you're going to want to check out. And third MOA to half MOA results with the AR-15 that I built, which is absolutely outstanding. If you try and shoot an AR-15 in a precision rifle context, you understand that those results are exciting when you get that kind of performance. 6-dasher, this is just where I felt like I truly achieved my goal in custom rifle building and shooting, because I was able to produce on camera a .090 inch 5-shot group with Varget, with Berger's 105 grain hybrid bullet, and my custom rifle. Very satisfying moment for sure. And in my load workup, I saw SDs for 5 shots down in the 2.2 feet per second range, which is the best results that I've gotten. So that speaks incredibly highly of Varget powder and what it can do with the right cartridge, the right components, and the right rifle. I also have used Varget for .308, but I haven't really gone through a deep dive exercise on accuracy testing or ballistics testing, looking at velocity consistency or anything like that. But it has performed well, and it's been so nice to have this powder that works so well in all these cartridges. So it is so helpful to have a powder on the shelf that is so versatile and performs so well in the cartridges that I use it in. And in this day and age, in 2021, we've just come through this crazy year, a bunch of shortages. That makes perhaps the best case for these powders like Hodgdon Varget. Great performance and great versatility means if you can only find one powder, and if it's only Varget, you're going to be able to do a lot with it, and that's incredibly valuable. So that's my tested story on Varget. I hope that you have found this video useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have experiences with Varget, if you have that perfect load that you love, that perfect rifle you like to load it for, that perfect cartridge, please drop a comment and we'll start a discussion. Expect to see more Varget highlights and features on this channel because I absolutely love this powder. For that reason, you're going to want to subscribe with notifications. Also, down there in the video description, link to the full article. We're going to have a lot more data, links to product pages, and so on and so forth. I'm on Patreon. I also have Ultimate Reloader shirts at the Ultimate Reloader store. As always, thank you for watching. Happy shooting and happy reloading.